Gorogoa is the enchanting creation of Jason Roberts in collaboration with Annapurna Interactive. I first played this game about 2 years ago or so, maybe 3, and I've recently replayed it, cementing the fact that this is perhaps one of my favourite creations, irrespective of medium. It begins with a boy standing at a window flicking through the pages of a book in search of meaning. An enigmatic creature lurks between the buildings of his city. And from here, the single unitary scene, the game moves outwards. The single scene fragments layer upon layer in very intricate ways. The game is set up into a 4x4 grid structure where these windows can be shifted, panned, you can zoom in. There might be a hole or cutout in a particular scene which you have to layer onto another scene. You can move through space and time very fluidly. There's a sense of a kind of a ludic pleasure in moving through intuitively these different scenes. The game is very non-linear in that sense. There's something about it that kind of lends itself to this. You can move into the gameplay in a very seamless way. And in fact, the game reminds me of Lord Dunsany's short story The Wonderful Window. That story involves a clerk of London looking through a window into a medieval city, but we ourselves, the readers of the story, are aware that we are looking upon a figure looking further into a medieval city. So there's a kind of layering or nesting effect, and we have that same kind of feeling in Gorogoa, and it makes us see things differently. And Gorogoa is really all about shifting perspective. It plays upon one of my perennial fascinations, the portal, the threshold. It tells us that all we have to do is shift our perspective in order to change how we see things, in order to move from one point to another. And the game is really founded on these moments of clarity. And one of the moments of clarity that I most love in Gorogoa, which has stayed with me for all these years, and it's an endless source of inspiration. In one particular scene, the boy stands at a wall, and there's a painting of an archway, a doorway, set in this wall. And there's a point where you can shift. The solution to this puzzle is that you can shift a particular doorway onto the wall, and that wall becomes a garden, a magical garden, and the boy walks through. The wall is no longer an impassable barrier. But that scene is so evocative of H.G. Wells' Door in the Wall, in which this protagonist, seeking wonder, finds himself at a magical, enchanting doorway, and it leads on to this garden. It's so similar. That scene has inspired so much of what I've written about. So just before we move on to the story of Gorogoa in the broader picture, I just want to explore some of the art and music influences. So apparently Jason Roberts travelled to Istanbul, and this really inspired him to base the art style of Gorogoa on Byzantine art. The game is very much, it draws upon the arabesque, the cyclical, the scroll work and so forth. It's very, it ties in well with the non-linear nature of Gorogoa in terms of the gameplay. And also it's clear that the art is also drawing on people like Edward Gorey and MC Escher as well. But what I love about the art style, not only is it very decorative and ornamental, but also quite restrained as well, is that it lends a sense of history to the setting, which we don't know much about, but it feels quite grounded and real. In terms of the music of Gorogoa lingers. It's very soft and contemplative. There's one particular track called Study, which I occasionally put on to when I want to be inspired, or when I'm thinking through a particular issue. Gorogoa's music is understated as well. It's very elegant. It's very ethereal and dreamlike. In fact, it's somewhat like a half-remembered dream. And I'm thinking here mostly of the sound effects, the tinkling sound effects, the chimes, It reminds me of when one wakes up and you've got this a remnant of a dream. The music, I believe, draws upon traditional instrumentation, but it also incorporates a kind of some electronic instruments as well, electronic sounds, kind of blends them together to create this unique soundscape. So the story itself, for me, Gorogoa's story is not the main point. Gorogoa it's a way for me to meditate and reflect upon the power of thresholds and gateways and portals or windows. There is a story, although it's it's open to wide interpretation. It's about a quest for meaning, a search for meaning. There is spiritual themes, there's themes of war and so forth, but for me, I think what I've always come back to is that the game could feel like somewhat of a quest for self-actualization. And this is something that's much more, it's not really suited to a game review, but a quest for self-actualization really lends itself to a kind of new age spirituality that I find problems with. But the game, what I love about the game is that you're actually exploring the world in your quest. Your quest is to find out more about Gorogoa, this creature, the titular creature. I never really got the sense that it's about a single quest for a universal truth. You're just exploring this world. You're researching. There's even little notebooks that almost remind me of natural history. The boy is studying as he grows older. The boy is studying the creature and other forms of life. It feels it's expansive. So although there is this overarching theme of a spiritual journey, an inward journey, it's still very much outward looking, which I appreciate. And so I don't really want to go so much into a story. I will just say that it could be the search for Gorogoa, could be about an ideal. It could be about the imagination. And indeed, that's going back to that single unitary scene with the boy looking through the window. It very much reminds me of my own experiences, I have to say, of coming into egocentrism and finding the power of fantasy and imagination. And Gorogoa is kind of this first image that one sees to then allow one to walk forward and to go out into the world. So that's really what I took from the story. So I think what I really enjoy about Gorogoa the most and find the most meaning in the game is that it tells us that there are different ways of viewing the world, and we don't have to feel trapped. Again, coming back to that original scene where the boy walks through the wall into a magical garden, an enchanted garden. And a broader point as well, it tells us that it's not just literature and other forms of art to play on a tired trope. It's not just literature and other forms of art that can be art. Games like Gorogoa, because of the way that they make you experience the world through its ludic wonder, it changes how you see the world. If I see a wall in the real world that blocks off a green space, I might actually think of Gorogoa. There's always something on the other side. There's always something, a new horizon to reach. There's always, you don't have to feel imprisoned. So if you've not already played Gorogoa, I highly recommend it, of course. So thanks for watching, everyone. Until next time.